this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and I'm coming at you today in Florida City, which is a little bit south of Homestead on the way to the Florida Keys. And the reason for today's episode is we're at Empower Farms. They grow basically eco-friendly, organic permaculture, right? Food, and they have a nursery where they sell bamboo plants to the local community. Now, if you guys want to support them and buy the food from them, the only way you could do that is two ways. Number one, they have a CSA program, both in the wintertime where they really specialize in the vegetables, and in the summertime where they specialize in the fruits and the eggs. Hopefully soon they'll be adding on basically a banana box. So if you just want bananas pretty much year round, you can get them as well. And this is only for people in the local Miami area. They will deliver it literally to your door, which is actually quite impressive. Now, for those of you guys out there in YouTube land, right, you're not left out, because they will offer you their Florida grown turmeric, organic certified turmeric, and it's the Hawaiian red kind, the kind I like the most, not treated with any kind of growth inhibitors. So you could buy their turmeric and then grow it at your house on your farm. And that's on their website at Empower Farms. I'll put their links down below to their Instagram as well as their homepage. Now, the reason why I chose to come out to Empower Farms today is because while there's a lot of fruit farms down here, unfortunately there's not a lot of good vegetable farms down here. And this is one of the best vegetable farms that I've visited here in Florida, because not only are they growing organically using permaculture, pretty much no-till is their ethos, right? The most important thing is called Empower Farms, because from the get-go, from the time this farm was started 10 years ago, the main purpose of this farm was to employ people with disabilities and empower them, right? I think it is quite sad how most people with disabilities, yes, they get money from the government, but they sit at home watching TV, right? And don't have a community connection. Many of them may be in a group home, and it might not be the best situation in a group home for them also, right? So we really love that Empower Farm here has, I believe, about almost 20, up to 20 different people with disabilities that they hire and train to do very specific tasks, right? In this episode, I hope to share with you guys more about how they employ people with disabilities, but more importantly, I want to show you guys some of the techniques and some of the things they do to grow some of the highest quality organic certified food here, especially the vegetables in South Florida. So we're now standing at the front of the farm near the entrance, and there's a little road that will go back to the farm. But this whole area, which is about 10 acres, and actually this whole area used to be all pine trees back in the day before the white man came, right? It got all chopped down, and this property, when they got it, was basically just farmland with standard row crops. So there was nothing here, totally empty. So they actually had to rehabilitate it, bring it back to life. And in the front of their property, they're not farming it. Actually, it's a nice riparian buffer zone where they're planting native plants, especially the pine, which if we look over that direction, you can see maybe a couple fields down, there's like a 10-acre swatch of land where it is just naturally grown pines that have been growing there for a long time. So they're trying to bring that back to this area of the farm where it's a bit more riparian, habitat for the local creatures. This is a very important element of farming that especially many even certified organic farms forget. So I'm glad they're doing it. Anyways, let's head down to the road into the farm. All right, as you guys can see, this is the entrance to the farm, the little road that comes up. They have a little nursery area where they have their nursery stock. They do sell bamboo year round, which we'll be talking about in a second. They also have like a little hoop house, shade house, greenhouse where they start all their seedlings in that will then go in to the fields in the back. They have an area off to the left, which actually they have, pretty much really nicely hidden with the offices and where they process a lot of the harvested produce. And they have the bamboo and some cactus, kind of lining it. And then beyond that, they have just fields and fields of the annual vegetables. Right now in the winter time, which is when they specialize in annual vegetables. In the summer, they get flipped into the Seminole pumpkins or the local pumpkins here, as well as that's when they really start harvesting a lot of the fruits in the food forest in the backside of the property. So I think I'm going to take you guys to each area of the farm and share with you guys some of the practices they do here to grow the organic food and also keep some of the local people with the disabilities, which they call the team members, you know, employed and staffed, and be able to get outside, have community, have connections, and more importantly, you know, be able to create a little bit of income for themselves as well. So I think first up, we're gonna go ahead and show you guys the bamboo nursery area, and I'm gonna show you guys why they grow bamboo as their sole only nursery plant here. All right, so as you guys can see, we're in a bamboo nursery, and they just have all of these pots full of bamboo here. And you know, they could be growing a lot of plants to sell, but they've tried other ones and they found bamboo works the best. The main reasons are bamboo is easy to propagate. You can take cuttings, and they have many patches of bamboo around the property. They currently have 3 different varieties of bamboo. They can do cuttings, drop them in a pot, and then the bamboo will grow. And the other cool thing about this is that some of the people with disabilities, right, each of the people here that they employ have different skills. Some have more fine motor skills, some don't have fine motor skills but have other skills that they could use, right? So they hire each person not based on a specific task. Like if you get a job in McDonald's, you're like, okay, you're gonna be the cashier, you're gonna be the burger flipper. Here what they do is they hire somebody, and then they fit that person based on their skill set with the task that they could do, whether that is, you know, plucking tomatoes, pulling weeds out of the field to make sure they don't pull out the plant they're growing, or, you know, here in the nursery where it's pretty easy to differentiate between, okay, this is the bamboo, this is the non-desired plant, we could pull this out, okay? And also, of course, bamboo, when you're working with bamboo, they have these big pots, 7 gallons minimum, sometimes up to like a 15-gallon or larger, that then they could have some of the people that could easily work a shovel and pot these up to a larger size. And the other thing about the bamboo is that they carry a high value, right? Bamboo could also sustain a pot for a lengthy amount of time. It doesn't have to get moved up as quickly as other plants, and some of the larger bamboo plants they sell for over $100 a pot. So, you know, that makes it ideal for them to grow and offer to you because they're relatively lower maintenance and easy to manage with their staff that has a certain skill set. All right, so as you guys can see, we're here in the shade house, which is actually quite nice, a bit less breezy. But you can see, well, there's a lot of tables here. Some of them are full and some of them are not full right now. They have most of their farm planted out right now, but they always have to have some backup plants. And then, you know, if they have a crop failure, they always have some backups ready to go in. One of the crops they love to grow here the most are tomatoes and carrots. So during the season, the winter season, if you're a CSA member, you're pretty much going to be guaranteed to get tomatoes, because tomatoes are the second most eaten fruit in the world. The first actually is bananas, which they also grow here. So they're starting some tomatoes, and they have lots of different leafy greens and other plants starting here in the greenhouse. All their plants are started from seed. They use organic seeds, and they've found out the specific varieties that will grow really well for them here in their particular microclimate. All right, so now we're walking here on the farm, and this is like the main road that goes all the way to the back of the farm. Over on the left side, they have native plantings. So they want to bring back some native plants. So this is just area for like habitat and for beneficial insects and whatnot. And then over on the other side of the road, you guys can see they have just rows and rows of row crops. They use a no-till method of farming. You can see here some of the tomatoes up on the trellis. You can see here lots of papaya plants, growing papayas, and then it opens up more into more different row crops, including cabbages, which they love growing. I see some mustard greens there, like a mesclun mix, and of course the carrots they love. Looks like some lettuce, and look at this is all expertly weeded. So the coolest thing about this organic farm is when I come here, right, they're using mulch to keep down the weeds, and number two, the main weed control is not any kind of pesticides or herbicides or anything, but they have manual labor. You know, people don't understand that on big commercial farms, there's two things they use. You either use manual labor to pull up weeds, or you use machinery, right? While they do have a bobcat, which is their favorite machinery to use to move big bundles of, you know, wood chips and compost that we'll talk about in a little bit, right? The main effort they use is human labor. right? So I really love that they're able to use human labor, right? Locally sourced people with disabilities to find the talent set and find the ones that are really good at differentiating between the plant being grown and the weeds. I met several of the teammates here earlier who were like literally in the field pulling the weeds and doing an amazing job. So I mean, I really appreciate this farm for doing that, because I know it must be a lot of work to, you know, train teammates, you know, to pull the weeds and teach them new skills, because unfortunately a lot of the team members here are forgotten by normal society and pushed to the side of society. So they're trying to bring them back and get them introduced into living a little bit more what we would call normal life. So now we're standing in one of the areas with the tomatoes, and they're basically growing up wires. So they basically train them up the wires. And what people don't understand is that, you know, farms need a lot of labor, right? And picking tomatoes is quite laborious. The farm works 5 days a week, and 3 of the days, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they have their team members with disabilities come in to do some of the work here that they have trained them and they have seen can be done by them really, really well. So, you know, a lot of the team members today were actually picking tomatoes because they could see, oh, this is an unripe tomato and this is a ripe one, and they'll pick all the ripe ones. Lots of labor, right? This is a job that I don't think can be done by an AI yet. Because number one, you gotta have fine motor skills to not like press a tomato too hard and smush it, but also you need to be able to see that the tomato is ripe, right? To be able to pluck it and harvest it. So they'll come out here and harvest tomatoes, and then they'll take them back and they'll sort them, and then, you know, make sure, do quality control inspection, and then put them in the boxes that will then go out to the CSA members tomorrow. So for me, growing up in California and seeing the farming out in California, and then always when I come to South Florida, I never really see any vegetable farms. Everybody always loves growing their fruit out here, but I'm really happy to visit this vegetable farm, and nonetheless a certified organic vegetable farm, because I have been to other vegetable farms out here that are not certified organic, and they use the conventional fertilizers and pesticides and all these kind of things. So I'm really glad here that, you know, they're really doing a back to nature approach. And the thing I want to let you guys know is that just because it's certified organic, you know, all certified organic means is that they're only using the certified organic growing practices and products, right? Being certified organic doesn't mandate what you have to do to grow high quality food. So one of the ethoses here at the farm is to try to use as many local inputs to create fertility for the ground with you know, and so that's more sustainable and eco-friendly for the environment. But also some of these very inputs and practices they are doing also raises the nutritional quality of the food to be higher than what big agriculture is doing just by dumping on primarily NPK fertilizer. You know, some of the practices they do, such as being, you know, organic and permaculture minded, they're doing a no-till system. They use efficient drip irrigation. They're also using the mulch to retain the water, and the mulch also breaks down, creates more organic matter, something very important here in South Florida where it's like mostly sand. And then what they'll do is the mulch on the inside of each of the rows, right, will break down over time. So I want to show you guys an up close shot of this. All right, so I'm sitting in this row now, and this row was recently mulched with the fresh wood chips and the mulch they have. So, you know, for this, it acts as a pathway and also to reduce the weeds between the beds. And of course, inside the beds, looks like they got some beans planted over here and some cauliflower over here. You know, they'll have people pull up all the weeds, right? So the weeds don't compete for the nutrients for the plants. And then as time goes on, you know, the wood chips will break down. So we're gonna go one over and show you guys what they look like more broken down. All right, so in this row, you can see the wood chips are mostly broken down, and now you're starting to see the rocks again, but it's not quite broken down enough. So we're gonna go over one more row and show you guys fully broken down wood chips that now you really can't see anymore. Now in this row, the wood chips are pretty much broken down already, right? And what you can see here now is they've created a lot of good organic matter. So now what they do in order to save labor, save time, they just basically take the broken down wood chips, which is basically compost, and now they scoop up this compost on top of the raised bed both directions, so that the following season's growth could benefit from the added organic matter. Of course, they also have compost piles that then they will also at some point sprinkle on top, as well as use some turkey manure to add fertility to the soil before they grow their nice large vegetables. So one of the things I always like to encourage you guys at home that are home growers, but even large farms such as this, is to, you know, if you're growing the cauliflower, like they have a really nice cauliflower right here, right? They come and harvest the cauliflower, but now all these leaves are just sitting here. Normally this is just pulled up and plowed under or composted, right? I would encourage farms and you guys at home to, you know, the benefit of a cauliflower plant to me is not just the cauliflower, right? It is all these leaves. Look at these nice large leaves. These nice large leaves could be put into the CSA member boxes. They could be used just like collard greens, just like kale. Whether you want to cook them up, whether you want to juice them up, they make excellent juice when the fibers are nice and thick. There's lots of nice nutrition and especially trace minerals in the stalks where the minerals concentrate, or more importantly, the phytonutrients in the leaves that are important with antioxidants, isothiocyanates that are anti-cancer in there for us. I mean, they could literally just have another second harvest of just the leaves and just put bunches of leaves in there, you know, for the CSA members to use. Or if you're at home, you could just harvest them yourself and eat them, right? And I think it's sad how most farms will just cut the cauliflower and then leave these to rot. There was a cool farm up in Canada that I met that will take these and turn them into kale chips, or actually in this case, cauliflower leaf chips, right? So you could do that also with these guys, turn it into a value-added product that would normally go to waste in the industry. So as you guys can see, a lot of this area up front is like vegetable area, and I think they have about currently 5 acres total planted in the crops of the 10 acres. Some of it's like, you know, native areas. They have a whole area for the chickens where they have free range chickens, right? They get to roam around and dig through dirt like chickens should be able to do. And then the second half of the property basically is a food forest with all different kinds of varieties of different fruit trees planted, although they do have lots of bananas as well, and they do underplanting between the rows of some of the fruit trees with the turmeric, you know, so that they could sell to you guys online. So I can see a big coconut there, and I want to point out a few really important staple vegetables I want you guys to grow if you guys live in Miami, or if you are a member of the CSA here, request them from them so they start including them more in your CSA boxes, right? They're led by what the consumers want is their main goal. They want to give you guys out there and girls that subscribe to the CSA boxes the food you want, but because many people that live in the Miami area are from up north, and if you go to a supermarket, you can pretty much get lettuce year-round, cauliflower year-round, tomatoes year-round at the supermarket. I want you guys to embrace the seasonality of living here in Miami and the crops that'll grow well here year-round with a lot less effort than growing the standard traditional annual crops, which are the perennial vegetables, which they have a few excellent examples of that I want to show you guys. And likewise, if you guys are growing here in South Florida, you should be growing some of these perennial crops yourself because they're a lot easier to manage than growing the traditional row crops. All right, so this is one of the crops I want you guys to grow, a request from Empower Farms here if you're on the CSA, but especially if you're breastfeeding or expect a baby really soon. This is known as moringa. It is said that moringa will help increase your breast milk production for your baby. I only encourage you guys to breastfeed babies. I was not breastfed, and I believe it to be partly responsible for some of the autoimmune conditions that I had. Breast milk contains a whole essential host of nutrients that are perfect for your baby, including the protein, the vitamins, the minerals, the essential fats, but more importantly, the HMOs, or human milk oligosaccharides, which is actually good for the baby's microbiome. We're not going to talk about that today. But anyways, the moringa is one powerful superfood for breastfeeding moms, but even if you're not breastfeeding, if you're just a person, you want to get some nutrition, right? I want you guys to eat your moringa. I have a video on moringa. I'll post it down below. The best way to eat moringa is actually to juice it, in my opinion. You could also, of course, cook with it. You could eat it in salads. You could blend it into green smoothies. If you go to the health food store, you could buy moringa powder, which is super expensive, but freshest is always bestest. And if you guys are eating it in salads, I recommend you guys take the little baby small leaves, put that in salads. You can eat it fresh. That's some good moringa. It has a nice peppery flavor. It's full of isothiocyanate, so it's anti-cancer, anti-aging. And on the larger leaves, you can basically just take these off and just cook them up, put them in soups. You could add these to salads too, or put them in a green smoothie, or even juice them. They're delicious, but here's the thing, guys. This does not taste like lettuce, right? Most people have never tasted fresh moringa, so you have to acquire a taste for it or learn how to process it properly so you can eat it and enjoy it and love it, right? For me, I love trying new foods. I know a lot of you guys, you just like your same staples. You like eating your lettuce with your tomato on your sandwich, and that's all the vegetables you get. I want you guys to expand the diversity of foods, not only for your health, but also your microbiome health, if they matter to you. Studies have shown that when you eat over 30 different types of different foods in a week, you have a healthier microbiome than somebody that doesn't. And this is 30 different types of whole plant foods a week, not processed junk foods. So yeah, in my opinion, moringa is an underutilized resource that here they have, because it grows year round. And here's a tip for you guys. This is the way professional moringa growers grow it when they're growing for yield, right? They'll take the tree, it grows really tall, they'll literally cut it in half. And what'll happen is what's happening here. They cut it, and there's all these new offshoots, and now they can harvest the young, tender offshoots. I mean, the most prized part of the moringa is the little leader tip where the tender growth is. This is my favorite part to eat. Now, you guys probably can't do this unless you have your own tree. It reminds you of eating asparagus, as it's so tender, like tender asparagus. Of course, it's got that bite of the moringa as well. Normally, they would just probably harvest like large branches for you guys to eat. But yeah, moringa, definitely one of the A+ things they're growing here, and I hope that and encourage them to get it into more CSA boxes in the future. And of course, if you live here in the South Florida area, moringa is the #1 tree you should plant, because you can literally eat year-round from it. Very nutritious. All right, now I want to show you guys 2 more underutilized perennial vegetables that they're growing here. One of them they don't even include in any of the CSA boxes, right? That's this one over here. This is a chaya leaf, also known as Mayan spinach. This grows as a nice big tree-ish bush thing. And there are so many leaves on this, right? The challenge with this plant is that you should never eat the chaya raw. It does need to be heat processed, cooked. It's best to boil it, throw away the boiled water. It does have cytogenic glycosides in there that can kill you, literally, if you don't process it right. That being said, traditional peoples have been eating chaya for thousands of years when it's properly processed and the cyanide is removed. The other, and actually even in Las Vegas, I'm growing the chaya. The small leaf chaya seems to be a little bit more frost tolerant. This year we got maybe down to like below freezing for like less than a handful of days, and my plant defoliated. Some of this tip growth is still growing, and usually every year it always comes back after being stunted from the frost. That being said, here in Miami, South Florida area, you'd be able to grow this year-round without problems, to have greens that you guys could harvest and eat from your home. Another one that I love a lot is this one right here. This is known as the cassava or the yucca. This also makes leaves that you can eat. Yes, these are probably have higher levels of cyanide than the chaya there, so you really have to be careful when cooking these to make sure you get all the cyanide out. That being said, they don't sell you the leaves here. What they do is they'll dig up the roots. The roots do need over a year to be in the ground to produce. I tried to grow them as an annual in my climate, and I made 0 tubers, so I don't recommend that unless you want to grow it for leaves. Although I do really love the look of the leaves. They look quite tropical to me. But they will dig up the roots, and then they'll put the tubers in the the CSA members for the first week or 2 of the starting season when they don't have their vegetable production up and running yet. But I'm glad to see they're growing the yucca or cassava here, one of the staple food crops for people from many tropical countries around the world. All right, so just want to give you guys a quick shot of the empowered chickens, and actually these are truly free-range chickens. I mean, literally the door is actually left open. I don't know if they did that on purpose or what, but chickens are just wandering out here. They have a huge cage that they can hang out in, but then on either side of the cage is open to the field, so they have a protected area for them on the inside of the cage, and then they could actually go out the sides of the cages to just go into the field and peck in the dirt and the grass. So if you guys are looking for some high quality organic eggs here in the Miami area, I would definitely encourage you guys to support the Empowered Farm eggs. Now they do have the eggs year round, whereas you know some of the winter vegetables they don't have year round. All right, so as you guys can see, we're now in the food forest area, and they got a good amount of land dedicated to the food forest. You know, a lot of the fruit trees, though, may produce one time a year, or the bananas will produce once, then they cut it down and a new pup will sprout up and produce more bananas. They have a star fruit that I see has some star fruit on it, and all the fruit here is harvested and then put into the CSA box, which is not a lot in the winter time, but a lot more in the summer, where they literally have dedicated fruit boxes. They grow lots of mangoes here, and unfortunately I'm not here in mango season. About every 3 rows they have a main road area that they could drive through to access, and during the season they have people driving through all the different roads between in the food forest to kind of look and spot the ripe fruit, and they'll jump out and harvest the ripe fruit so that you guys are assured to get the highest quality ripe fruit, not picked too early like food that's being shipped in from out of the country. All right, I don't know if you guys could see this, but basically I'm kind of below some bananas in their food forest area, and one of the cool things they do here is the ground cover. So I mean, while they did have a chaya here that basically gets knocked over because they get high winds, and also they have a papaya here that got knocked over in high winds, what they're doing on the ground below, in many cases they're growing other crops below the food forest. So in this case they have the sweet potato vine, right? I really love the sweet potatoes. Are one of the most nutritious staple foods of many cultures around the world, and I would encourage you guys to get some sweet potatoes in you. They have good resistant starch, and if you guys want to increase the nutrition of your sweet potatoes, you want to like steam them or boil them. I prefer steaming them in the Instant Pot. They can be done in as short as 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the size of the sweet potato. And then I'll basically take it out of the Instant Pot, and then I'll put it in the fridge and let it cool down, right? When you do that, the resistant starches get more resistant and can better feed your microbiome. Of course, if you don't like eating, cool sweet potatoes, you can then reheat it and you'll still get the benefits of the more complex resistant starches, but yet have a warm sweet potato to eat. Now, what most people don't know, and they probably don't do this here, is that the sweet potato leaves are also edible. Whether you want to eat them raw in salads or whether you want to cook them up like spinach, they're also edible as well. So for me, sweet potatoes are a must eat. Not only the sweet potatoes, but also their greens. All right, so I'm really loving how this farm is laid out with their, the fruits. They got the bananas here, some fruit trees, but then in between the rows of the fruit trees, they're also planting the turmeric, which they can ship you guys. Turmeric is a very valuable crop for them because they could ship it out of the state. It's not quite as perishable. Also, it sells for a lot of money, and it's actually a very nutritious crop. And of course, they grow my favorite kind, the Hawaiian red style, that's really mild. So this is where they grow it. So let me see if I could actually find some turmeric to dig up and show you guys what it looks like. So we're here in the bed next to the bananas, and this is where they're growing the turmeric. I could see the dried out turmeric, right? The turmeric basically kind of goes dormant here in the winter season. When the tops turn brown, that's the time that they're ready to harvest the turmeric when they get to it. So I can see there's turmeric here. So the cool thing is they basically hand dig all their turmeric here, and they have specific teammates that have been trained to harvest the turmeric. Some of the teammates here have been working here for maybe like 5 years as the longest. Some newer teammates might have only been here for a year or so. They really like to try to keep people longer so that their training is not in vain, because training new people and finding out their skill set and what they're able to do can take lots of work. So I'm just carefully, wow, and it's really rocky soil. So they don't give the team members here anything like machetes you know, nothing with a super sharp blade, so they're not able to hurt themselves. All right, look at that. I found some turmeric. Let me shake off the dirt here. All right, there we go. Fresh turmeric harvest here at Empower Farms. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe some of this stuff off, and we're gonna try it and let you know what I think of it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and try that turmeric that I just dug up. Man, this is probably the freshest turmeric I've ever had. I mean, literally, I just dug it. It's so tender, so fresh, it probably should be in the ground for a little bit longer to cure a little bit better. But this is the exact kind of turmeric I love. It doesn't have a strong bite. To me, I could eat this like a carrot because it's just so mild and delicious with a high curcumin value. So if you guys want to order some of the turmeric from Empower Farms and help them empower the local disabled community, check out their website down below. They will ship you the turmeric, whether you want to eat it raw like I did, juice it, whether you want to let it sprout and then plant it in your garden so you could have your own turmeric. I encourage you guys to support them and their mission to help empower the local disabled, you know, to have jobs, to be more responsible members of the community, because I think that is an amazing mission. All right, guys, I just wanted to show you guys, the kind of life that the chickens have here, all right? The chickens are kind of hanging out underneath there, right? I see the rooster in the middle, and there's some other chickens there, and they're hanging out literally below the bananas, and they're just kind of digging up grubs and different things in the soil. And they're in the shade. This is really nice. They're just having a nice life compared to some of the factory farmed, you know, eggs and chickens that are in little small tight cages. I encourage you guys, if you guys buy eggs, support a farm like Empower Farms here to encourage people to have chickens that could roam out in nature, peck and dig in the ground instead of being in a small cage, getting abused, getting antibiotics, all these things that make horrible quality eggs. When they feed, you know, the chickens here, you know, the compost and food scraps from local, you know, places that drop off food scraps that I'll show you guys in a little bit, right? So then chickens get to turn the food scraps into food for them. Also the chicken poop that then they will collect, compost down properly, and then add to their fields to, you know, compost and add fertility to their vegetable and food forest. All right, guys, so I'm continuing to walk through the farm here, and it's just amazing being here. I mean, this whole side is fenced off. This is all an area for the chickens. Of course, they got some bananas and other crops growing in there, but it's dedicated for free roaming chickens. I mean, the chickens have so much space. Look at this. This is all chicken space inside there. They're just hanging out in the shade right now. So I really appreciate that about this farm, because not every farm I go to, while they may say free range, you know, they don't really have a lot of range to roam in. But what I will say is that this place has lots of bananas. You know, while I do appreciate, you know, locally farmed and raised bananas more than imported bananas, right? This place seems to have a lot of bananas, but you know, I guess they're in demand, and so they grow what is in demand, because after all, this needs to be financially viable. So as you guys can see, here's a guava, and they have just mixed food forest trees. Most are not in season right now, and lots of banana. We're gonna go ahead and continue down to the end of the farm where they just started planting some more vegetables. All right, I wish I could show you a big portion of the farm aside from the bananas, which, you know, there's definitely lots of bananas on the plants right now. They also have a lot of fruit trees, although not all the fruits produce this time of year in the winter season. That's when they focus on the vegetables, and the fruits kind of get the sidelines. In the summertime, that's when they really focus on taking care of the food forest. They're so busy managing the vegetables and getting out the CSA boxes to you guys. But here in the food forest, you guys can see here some mesa potes that are still yet kind of small. So they're gonna let them grow up into large ones, and they'll probably be harvesting this later this year for sure. All right, so I finally made it to the back of the property, and this is where they just planted our recent peppers. So now they're gonna have some peppers growing for members of the CSA, and that's the only way you could support this farm, is to get on their CSA box if you're living locally, and they'll deliver it to you, or by their turmeric online. Sometimes they'll send it out to local farmers markets if they have excess, but the CSA members always get first dibs. So if you guys are really looking for organic, locally grown food here in Miami, I'm gonna say this is the best place to get it. Get on their CSA box. The CSA box, if you have a full share, it includes 10 to 12 different kinds of vegetables in a week. You guys get a half share. It's between 5 and 6 kinds of different vegetables in a week, all grown here on site. And then this is where they basically planted their peppers. But in the peppers, which they have in kind of like their same system of a raised rows, they also have planted their fruit trees. So they have different kinds of fruit trees, including avocados planted in along with the peppers. So they're gonna use this area for growing vegetables until the fruit trees get big. And when the fruit trees get big, then they may grow something like sweet potatoes or the turmeric underneath them. But they got years and years before these fruit trees get too big to shade out all the vegetables growing around them. And they figure, oh, you know, we're gonna use the water to water the peppers. Let's just throw in a few fruit trees, you know, in the same area, so that the water for our vegetables also can benefit the fruit trees, because fruit trees, when they're young, right, they require a little more nurturing, some more water, some more tender care. This way they're also out here to harvest and inspect the peppers. They could also check to make sure that the fruit trees are healthy as well, and they could take care of any problems should they occur. Meanwhile, once the fruit trees get nice and large, pretty much they don't need to be on irrigation, using their sustainable practices such as the mulch. That'll reduce the amount of evaporation or evaporation loss from the soil, so that pretty much with the normal amount of rain they get here will feed the trees, and they'll be more on autopilot. It's like when you're a baby, you gotta have a lot more care, but when you're 18, your parents kick you out of the house. So they want to get these fruit trees to be 18 and they could fend for themselves. All right, another crop I want you guys to be familiar with, because most people are not, grows really well here in Easley, here in South Florida, is a tamarind. You guys can see they're growing the tamarind. The tamarind basically is kind of like, think of it like a raisin, right? When you harvest it, there's a little seed inside. You peel off the shell. You could eat it's kind of like a dried fruit, and you spit out the seed that are super rock hard. But they're quite delicious. You could either have the sweet tamarind or the sour tamarind. These to me look like they're the sweet tamarind here. Don't appear these are quite yet ripe, so not sure. You know, these are probably going to go into the summer fruit boxes for this upcoming season. So a big part of the farm here is sustainability, right? And what you guys are looking at are like, this is literally like, I don't even know, hundreds of feet, right? Their crops are grown in 120 row feet, right? They have 8 rows of tomatoes, for example, but this is like over 1,000 plus feet of wood chips. As you guys can see, these are wood chips, and even just sitting here, they're benefiting the farm, right? Number one, the landscapers that trim these trees didn't have to go to the landfill, pay money to dump the wood chips, which then get buried into the earth. Here, they're utilizing the wood chips as a valuable source of carbon, organic matter, and other nutrients for the farm. So whether they're going to use this as the mulch, which then goes between the raised beds to keep the weeds down, whether they're going to mulch some of their fruit trees with it to conserve the water, so that the trees can, you know, literally, because the wood chips will act as a sponge. So when it rains, the wood chips will act like a sponge, hold all the water, and then release it slowly when it's not raining. Or when it rains also and the water goes into the ground, the wood chips are on top of the soil so that the water doesn't evaporate out of the soil. Wood chips are such a valuable thing to use. So I'm so glad that, like, they've collected so many wood chips. I think they're behind in dispersing the wood chips to different areas of the farm. So I'm glad that they're using the wood chips. And the most valuable part of the wood chip pile is not the top that's getting dried out. It's the stuff on the very bottom, especially if it's sitting there a couple, 3 years, it starts to turn into really rich fungal dominated compost that I would actually personally remove and then specifically, you know, put on some of the vegetable garden beds, you know, that wanted a little bit of extra oomph. Of course, that'd be also some excellent material to make a compost tea out of, you know, to encourage the fungal diversity of the soil microbiome here. So another product that's diverted from the landfill is basically scraps from places like juice bars. So you can see they have coconuts here, also the sugar cane, also different orange peels. These could also be reject produce from, you know, the industry, like restaurants and whatnot and grocery stores that are just not good enough to eat, come here and then get composted. So there's 2 ways they get composted. Number one is if it's like pretty nice, you know, food scraps, right? It could go into the chickens, and then the chickens could go at it, eat what they want to eat out of it. Some of the food scraps will attract some bugs, and the bugs, the chickens can eat the bugs and stuff. and then it's run through the chicken to make the poop, which is then composted in the chicken pen area. Also, these food scraps you can also get mixed in with the wood chips to create a standard bacterial compost pile, which is turned and moved a couple different times so they can basically create more compost and organic matter for their farm. These are the main ways, the wood chips and the food scraps, that this farm creates fertility on the property. So, you know, I admire them for doing that, and also more importantly for diverting waste that would normally go to the landfill, because the composting here in Miami-Dade County, as well as just the recycling, is just, it makes me sad. I mean, coming from you know, the West Coast, where like Californians have had like, you know, green bin and blue bins for, you know, food waste, yard trimmings, as well as the blue bin for all the plastic scraps, and that, like, not even be able to compost my plastic water bottles here makes me really sad. So at least I'm glad that this farm is taking a step in the right direction to divert the food waste, to turn it into nutrients for the soil that feed the soil, that build the soil microbiome, that then in turn will grow healthier vegetables for the local people here in South Florida to eat. So now I want to show you guys a very important practice that they're doing here. It's basically creating windbreaks. So you guys can see over on this side, they have all these trees planted, including some palms in between, you know, from the neighbor's property to their property, and they're planting basically windbreaks because over on this side is the row crops of the vegetables, and they don't want all the wind to get over here and then damage the vegetables. Some vegetables can handle a little bit of wind, but too much wind can damage the vegetables, hinder the production. So I'm so glad that they're, you know, instead of putting a big fence up, they're using a living fence, and the living fence actually with the trees will basically put roots in the ground. The trees will send nutrients down into the ground and actually end up feeding the soil, making the soil more nutritious. So that's pretty much all of the farm I'm gonna show you guys today, because I showed you guys all the main areas. But what we're gonna do next is we're gonna sit down with one of the teammates. We're gonna talk to him and learn more about why he likes working here at Empower Farms. All right, so now the pleasure of introducing you guys to Nick, the Food Forest Monkey, here at Empower Farms. Really, I know this guy does a lot here. They don't really have a lot of titles here, but you know, he's the main guy I've been talking to today, so I will say that. So, Nick, what do you actually do here at Empower Farms?
I do a little bit of everything. Keep an eye on the crops, keep an eye on the people, make sure the chickens are safe.
All right, cool. And so, why was Empower Farms started?
Empower Farms was started about 10 years ago. Our birthday's in like July. 10 years ago with the mission of creating opportunities for individuals with disabilities in our community. Since then, we've hosted over 2,500 individuals here on field trips, and at the moment we employ 16 individuals with part-time work that they have disabilities and are a big help here, helping us grow all the food that we produce here at the farm.
So why was it important for the farm to be established as its sole mission to employ people with disabilities?
First of all, just because there aren't enough opportunities for people with disabilities, and then second of all, because we felt that a farm, and particularly one like ours, could be a good place for them, and that would be an ecosystem that would have a lot of opportunities for them, whereas maybe other more traditional non-farming businesses don't have as much to offer in that regard.
Right, yeah, because there's so many different tasks that are repetitive that need to be done, that if you train somebody once to do it, right, they could continue to do it like forever, because they'll know the job. Like, I mean, I think for other traditional jobs for people with disabilities, I would think a fast food restaurant, you know, cleaning the tables, or maybe at some kind of, you know, hotel sweeping or something like that. So what kind of jobs do you get to provide them, or what kind of tasks do they get to do here?
So we're a very diverse farm. We grow all kinds of different crops. You know, there's people with fine motor skills, there's people with gross motor skills. So, you know, transplanting vegetable seedlings, weeding, packaging, sorting. We grow a lot. We probably grow over 100 different crops here, and there's just, we've done a good job of finding a niche for everybody.
So what's some of the feedback you've gotten from some of your teammates here, right, that you bring on, and of course some of their families? You know, have they seen a difference in themselves, and have the families seen a difference with some of the teammates as well?
I'm kind of humble about that, but I think it's probably pretty life changing for a lot of these guys. It's much more than just a paycheck. It's about having the opportunity to get out of the house and to be on a team and to feed people, and so it's something to kind of be proud of. So yeah, I think we've made a big difference in a lot of these guys' lives.
That's so wonderful. So, looking back, because you've been with this place since the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Would you, because I want to encourage other farms and other people, places around the country and world even, to start a farm, or even at least to bring on some people with disabilities, as part of your workforce to make their lives better. Would you recommend that other farms and other places do this, or is it too much work? I mean, because
I would
been through it
say
all.
I think that people that have not been exposed, I mean, there's all kinds of different disabilities out there, right? But different business owners, different operations, you never know when you can just like totally change someone's life, one, and then two, find someone that can be a great member of your team. And so I would encourage people to think outside the box and to not forget that there's all kinds of wonderful people out there that would really just love an opportunity.
So the other thing that really struck me, what was surprising to me, was that like you told me that you don't hire for specific tasks. So you won't like say, oh, we need a tomato picker, right?
Right.
We won't hire for tomato picker. Instead, you'll hire a person, right? And then get to know them for a couple weeks and maybe put them on different tasks and then see what they're good at, and then then utilize them in the way they're best used. And this is totally against like the whole business model, farming process, and
No,
everything.
no.
So you want to explain more about how you do this and how this works?
Well, that's what works for us. We want to help as many people as possible. We've created this place where there's all these different jobs going on, so there are tomatoes that have to be picked, and it just so happens that some of the people that we've hired are good at picking tomatoes. But we found that it's very difficult when you're interviewing someone with disabilities to see like, I need you to do this one thing and I need you to do it all day long, whereas we look at their skill set and then we look at everything that's going on at the farm, and then each day and each week and each month we plug them into where we need them the most.
So it's almost like you're matching their skill set with the task versus matching the task with the skill set, which is what most places do.
Yeah, and so that means that the rest of us have a good amount of work that has to get done, but that's what farming's all about, and that's what teamwork's all about.
Wonderful. So I know your teammates with disabilities are here 3 days a week. Let's talk about the other 2 days a week. What goes on those days, because of course some of the tasks that need to get done here on our farm need somebody a little bit more skilled.
I think there's never a dull moment on the farm. And Monday, Wednesday, Fridays when the teammates are here are just very exciting, because it goes from being, I'm always the first person here and it's a very quiet kind of setting, and then all of a sudden the farm springs to life and into action and all these different people doing different things. And then on the other 2 or 3 days a week when they're not here, it's very fast-paced and busy, where we have to get done all these other farm activities and chores that we can't do while we're supervising them and their safety and their productivity, and so it just kind of fast-paced here every day of the week.
Cool.
Yeah.
So why did the farm choose to be certified organic and doing a permaculture, focusing on building soil health and growing high quality food here in Miami? Because this is something that's quite different. I mean I'm going to say it, I'm from California, right? I mean, this would be kind of considered normal in California,
Yeah.
especially Santa Cruz, but here, this is like the rare bird. Like, I've been to other farms here and they're just all spraying crap and using conventional fertilizer and synthetic pesticides and all these things and polluting the earth and making the soil worse. You guys, on the other hand, are building the soil, making the soil better, employing people with, disabilities. I mean, totally opposite. Like, you really should be in, like, California, man.
Well, with all due respect to California, I just like Florida, and I've always, I think, enjoyed going against the grain. I think, to answer your question in two parts, I'd say we have all these people with disabilities come into the farm like we don't want this to be like a toxic environment, right? And I'd like to think that their families would also not want them to come here if we were spraying all kinds of junk on everything. And then yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, right, growing food organically, but that, like, I personally was not interested in farming chemically. You know, like I would do something else. I'd be laying brick, or you know what I mean. Like it's just not what I'm interested in. And then I think that my generation, younger generations, maybe even a little bit older, but there's this common realization that we have to change, and we have to understand more about where our food comes from and how it was produced. And so maybe, you know, 40, 50 years ago, if I was a farmer, I would have been like, hey, yeah, let's go spray a bunch of chemicals, just because we would have thought that's what you have to do. But now we're collectively realizing that no, you know, we've made a bunch of mistakes in the past, and we need to protect what we put into our stomachs, and we have to protect the land that we grow it on, and so it's just one of these challenges that we as farmers and as a society have to address now in 2023.
Absolutely. So tell me more about the wood chips, because you have a lot of crops growing, but you even have more wood chips on this property than probably most farms I've visited. Actually, you have a whole line of wood chips that probably need to get distributed,
Tomorrow,
faster or yesterday.
we are certainly passionate about our wood chips here on the farm. We're really lucky to have a couple partnerships with landscapers that bring us their wood chips, and we've tried to incorporate them in one way or another into basically everything we do at the farm. We keep our productive processes very simple. And the number one input, I think, into everything is the wood chips. Yeah, so I don't know how to properly answer that question, but it just seems to make sense. And it's here in South Florida, especially we're in the tropics, so there's an abundance of vegetation growing back and getting cut back, and you get the sensation that nobody knows how to use it well. Like, you know, like we could be using it 100 times more, you know, and so yeah, it's definitely a passion here at the farm. Mulch.
So I mean, so mulch is one of the inputs you use to create fertility on the land. What are some other inputs? Because I know you have a pretty strict policy of like using, you know, inexpensive, local, free inputs. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we collect fruit and vegetable scraps from local smoothie places and grocery stores. We receive mulch for free from a handful of different landscapers. We buy dehydrated turkey poop, which is our organic fertilizer.
From local farms?
Big, like, just supplier of, we get it from the agricultural supply store. It's called Sustain. I don't know them, but works for us.
Okay.
Yeah. We use from our chicken coop. We collect the chicken poop, and we mix it into our compost, and that goes through a whole composting process. So yeah, as much as possible, we've tried to connect different elements within our community and here at the farm to use outputs of one process to create inputs for the next process, and avoid buying stuff as much as possible.
Yeah, so that's just a lot more sustainable for the environment, and also diverting, you know, waste that would normally go to the landfill because there's no, you know, composting
system. You know, like culturally, I'm Canadian, so in the 80s when I was a child, everyone had compost in their backyard. Here in 2023 in South Florida, you talk about people making their own compost at home and they think you're crazy.
Well, I'm from California, same way, man.
So they're like, you know, like literally 30, 40 years late here in Florida. So you know, Florida's my home, and I enjoy it here, but you do get the sensation that we are just like asleep at the wheel and 3 or 4 decades behind where we should be in the best country on earth, leading the way.
I mean, I'm from the U.S. and I'm going to agree with you, and what I'm going to say is that I think big money gets in the way because, you know, the tipping fees and the big, you know, places that run the landfill and the garbage collection companies, right, don't want their profits being taken away. That's my personal opinion on that. But
yeah, but also there's an idea amongst the people that just composting in your backyard is gross, and it's like, it's actually like you know, like what's gross is just creating unnecessary amounts of garbage, misusing, you know, food scraps. Anyways, you know, but to each their own. But we're gonna make a lot.
You guys are making a difference here, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd say for you guys out there that aren't yet composting at home, the easiest way to compost is just dig a hole, dump your food scraps in there, and then cover it up.
Yeah.
Done deal. The worms will find it, the bugs will get in there, and it's underneath the ground. You won't have
And
to look at
whatever's
it.
around there is going to benefit from it.
Exactly. You're going to be adding nutrients to your soil instead of sending it off-site. A truck now having to use more diesel fuel to transport it to the landfill, which then it gets buried, creates methane gas, and actually is a negative thing. So you guys are doing a real good thing here.
Thank you very much. We do our best.
So tell me more about your CSA program for people that live here in the Miami area that want to, get some high quality food and support local agriculture and support, people with disabilities and everything you're doing here on the farm.
So I think from the beginning we wanted to have a direct connection with our community. We didn't want to be growing kind of like commodity products that just get shipped far away and that the people who would end up eating them would not kind of have a connection to where they came from. And so for our teammate employees, it's an honor to kind of grow food for people in their community. For me too, obviously. It's especially here that very few people are aware of the crops that we can grow in our very unique climate. It's a very nice experience to kind of like grow all kinds of really good fresh organic produce and share it directly to people. So we do door-to-door deliveries throughout Miami-Dade County, different days of the week, different parts of the city, but we get people the vegetables that they've signed up for the day that we harvested them.
The day you harvested them, or the day before maybe?
Yeah, day before, day of, depending on the different, leafy greens,
day of.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's impressive.
But and so here that we're on the tip of a peninsula, so we're very dependent with very little agricultural land, so we're very dependent on agricultural produce being trucked or shipped into us. And so we get a lot of really good feedback from just people that aren't used to
High
eating
quality
fresh food, and it's wild. And it's also wild when people are so used to going to the supermarket and accustomed to getting whatever they want whenever they want, but never once having seen what a cucumber plant looked like. They see cucumbers, but don't know when they're in season, don't know how they grow, don't know what it takes to produce them, and so it's really nice having that direct connection with consumers that want what we produce, and also to support these individuals that work here as well.
Wonderful. So do you have like tour days where CSA members could come down and you show them the farm and give them a tour? How does that work?
we used to do it kind of like they would let us know when they wanted to come, and then it got kind of very popular, so we have 2 or 3 per year that we just announce in advance. And that has been a joy also, just because so few people, especially in our country, get the opportunity to see where their food came from, and to ask questions, right? That like we should all know more about where our food came from and how it was grown.
And how it's produced if you are buying processed food, which I don't encourage you guys to eat.
Yeah.
It was made in some factory you don't even know where in the world, and what was done to it, or what kind of additives. I've been here, I've seen this place, I know exactly what they're doing. They're doing really good stuff. You guys are doing good work here.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. And you do an incredible job as well. It's very nice to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. So I guess another question I have for you is, let's talk about the vegetables. I encourage you guys, as much as I encourage you guys to support local farms, and I support local farms. I grow a lot of my own produce myself at my house, but I can't grow everything. And so then I reach out to local farms near me to supply things that I don't grow, okay? And then after that, to fill in, then that's when I go to like just organic produce, health food stores, and get local produce, or as local as possible produce from, ethnic markets and whatnot, right? But that's like kind of my hierarchy. So I always encourage you guys to grow your own food, even above and beyond supporting this guy and the great work that he's doing here at Empower Farms and all the teammates here. So next I want to ask you some questions about how people in Miami could grow their own vegetables. Of all the people I've interviewed in Miami area, I would say you're the #1 expert. You probably won't like this.
Yeah.
Growing vegetables, because you've been doing it for the last 10 years here. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say are the top 3 easiest vegetables to grow, in the correct season, which is the winter season here?
I think I'd go with kale, carrots, and tomatoes.
Kale, carrots, and tomatoes. Wow. Any specific varieties of those?
Yeah, cherry tomatoes, for sure. Indeterminate cherry tomatoes. Kale, I'd go with dinosaur kale or lacinato kale. And what was the other one?
Carrots.
Carrots. We grow mostly Scarlet Nantes carrots. we've just always had a positive experience growing carrots. It's been great, and it's just really rewarding and tasty to pull them out of the ground. More advice I would talk about is you got to be careful with iguanas. You can have a really beautiful garden that can disappear from one day to the other with iguanas, so you got to prepare for that with nets and stuff like that. And then for anybody that wants to get into home gardening, I can't stress enough, and I think it's probably true everywhere, but it's very true here in the subtropics, that gardening at home and growing your own food is going to take you at least 15 minutes a day. Like, you have to get to your garden 15 minutes a day. It's not the kind of thing where you put in a seed and then you leave and then you come back 3 weeks later and you get your food. You know, like, gardening is about, you know, like your kind of, maybe some of the stuff that you're talking about, of taking responsibility for your food, but you really have to put in the time. Whether it's iguanas or squirrels or caterpillars, something's going to try to eat the food that you're trying to grow for yourself, and so you got to kind of like be there and keep an eye on it, and you got to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like raising a baby. You don't just, I mean, we kick babies out when they're 18 finally, but for the first 18 years, especially when they're a baby, you baby them. So like, especially when your vegetables are younger, they take more baby, and when they get a little bit more mature, maybe you could walk back and not, you know, dedicate as much time. If you got a fruit tree that's 10 years old, right, it's out on its own, right? So let's talk about fruits, actually.
Yeah.
So I know you have lots of bananas, and so they must be an easy crop, but what are the top 3 easiest fruits to grow here in South Florida?
I'm going to go with mangoes, avocados, and mamey.
Mamey, not even bananas, huh?
Bananas they do well here, but they need a lot more care
and attention.
Yeah, care and attention. And I think I mentioned earlier, you know, we get some extreme wind events here, and that can topple your bananas. And then also, especially for home gardeners, I hear a lot of people say that they had a beautiful bunch of bananas coming, and then the squirrels got it. And so, the home gardening, I mean, I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but it has its challenges here.
Yep.
And bananas seem to be like a favorite for the pests and the critters. And I, you know, I guess this is just a big diverse farm, and so like we just have so many bananas. Maybe we have so many bananas that they can't keep up with them. But
just grow extra. I mean, that's gardening is a numbers game. Always plant extra, because part of your crop is gonna be lost to pest, disease, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, but mangoes, everyone here that's passionate about having their own kind of produce at home, everyone's got a mango tree here in South Florida. It's really a joy in the middle of the summer when they start ripening, and you got a couple months there of just wonderful, juicy goodness. Avocados is also really special. We can't grow the Hass avocados that you guys have over there in California, but there's all kinds of wonderful other varieties of avocados that we produce here. There's another fruit that I love called cepalilla.
Oh, I love that. They're in season right now. I've been eating so many on this trip.
Yeah, they're wonderful. It's kind of brown sugar and cinnamon.
Pear.
And they're just wonderful. I think anyone that had space should have one of those at their house as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about pests, right? So, I mean, I haven't seen any iguanas. You talked about it, and like, I mean, your vegetable garden's still productive. I'm not seeing anything either. Have you dealt with iguanas and other pests here?
We have a BB gun at the farm. And at the beginning of our vegetable season, so like in August, September, we just know that we're going to lose a lot of the seedlings.
Oh, wow.
And so we kind of, you know, especially like when you're having a hard day at the farm and you need to kind of clear your brain a little bit, or someone that's been doing a lot of hard work, we'll say, you know, go take the BB gun and rest for a little bit, you know. And so we have a championship every year. It's called the Empower Farms Iguana Hunting Championship. And so like the winner this year probably had like 30.
Whoa, 30 iguanas.
Yeah, and then like second place had 25, and then the teammates get a point. They get an assist every time they point out an iguana to one of us that are qualified to use the BB gun.
Wow. That's so over 50 iguanas or more.
Yeah, I remember like 80 to 100.
So that's in the beginning of the season, and then nowadays do you see any, or they're pretty much?
No, we've gotten them all.
Oh, you got them all?
Right, well, we've gotten all the big ones. So the ones that are left are the smart ones.
Smart ones.
And so those ones will end up breeding for next
I see. And then you'll get them. I see.
Yeah, I mean it's cyclical. It's a cyclical thing, and I mean, with all due respect to the iguanas, it's like a game, right? You know, we plant the food, they want to eat the food, we got to protect the food, and it kind of just goes on forever. It's not just here on the farm. Like in particular, the home gardeners have a much bigger problem with them because with a smaller garden, like in very little time, the iguanas can eliminate the whole thing. Whereas here with, you know, like an acre of vegetables, you know, we see, you know, you can see where we can see the damage, and you look at a tree and he's like right there, you know, and so it's kind of it's a little bit easier to keep an eye on because they can't eliminate the whole garden in one go.
And then disappear and go to your neighbor's garden or hide on the neighbor's property, which is right next door.
Yeah, but so it's a challenge. I mean, I'm not like glorifying hunting iguanas. There's people who eat them. We don't have any more big ones here, but when there used to be big ones here, like a guy would eat them, you know, if they're of the right size. We don't, you know, like want to be killing living beings for nothing, but yeah, we do.
It's either they eat or you eat. I mean, or your local people eat here.
So it's one of the challenges of growing here in the subtropics.
And they're an invasive species, actually.
Yeah, they are. And there's other invasive. You know, we have Burmese pythons that go after the chickens. We have these other big lizards called tegus that are doing lots of damage to like the native bird populations. So just kind of everything that you hear about Florida is true.
Right. Any alligators eat your stuff?
Not yet. Not yet. We did have a coyote here the other night, and that was kind of like a nice
something
special,
different.
Yeah, you know, like I don't. Yeah, but yeah.
All right, cool. So let's see, other pests besides big iguanas. So like small pests on the vegetables. I mean, I walk around and I haven't seen any major pest outbreaks or anything. I mean, it looks pretty healthy to me, but I didn't look.
We do a good job. I asked you earlier, one of our biggest challenges is aphids. You know, you talked about freezes killing them. We don't get a lot of freezes, so we use a lot of neem oil preventatively as possible. But sometimes, like with kale, you know, like it's almost too far gone, and we have to plant another patch of it and like keep on moving. Because sometimes I feel like if you get stuck trying to treat something, like sometimes you just gotta nuke it. Sometimes you gotta nuke it, feed the chickens, and like
start
plant
over.
And so we have a nice, you know, like 6-month growing season here, and so we really trying to get the succession crops, like, you know, like plant, harvest, get in something fresh, like, and do all this fast. And then if something's looking like it's struggling, sometimes the right choice is to nuke it and replant something else. And we've got the space to do that too.
Right on, cool. All right, so I think we're getting down to the end of this interview. Are there any final comments or things you'd like to share about the farm, Empower Farms here?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing about our farm is this thing of incorporating people that get taken for granted. I myself, I didn't have experience working with people with disabilities prior to this job, and I've just learned so much about so many people that have come through here, and some of the collective hardships that they have to deal with. One of the things we talked about is just like whether it's employment or jobs, employment or housing situation. And so one of the things I tell people that visit the farm is, you know, when you go to the movies, you go to the supermarket and you see someone that's a little bit different, you know, sometimes just saying hi to that person like will make their month. And so you know, we're all stuck here together.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to learn more about the farm, you know, subscribe to the CSA or even buy that turmeric that I tried earlier on the camera for you guys, how can they do that?
www.empowerfarms.com, or our Instagram is @empowerfarms.
All right, wonderful. I'll put all the links down below in the description so you guys can check them out. Highly encourage you guys to support them. Buy their turmeric, which should be in season and available by the time I post this video. And so you could grow it yourself at home or benefit from the amazing work they're doing here, not only building the soil, but also employing people with disabilities to create a better world for everyone. So if you guys enjoyed this episode at Empower Farms and want me to come back on my next trip to Miami, which is actually really rare, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. And also, more importantly, guys, for the algorithm's sake, please share this with other people that especially live in the Miami area or other farmers around the world so that they can see how Empower Farms is making a difference, employing people with disabilities and actually cutting things that would normally go to the landfill and turning it back into soil and nutrition for the local community. These are all things I highly agree with. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I'll be coming out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my channel. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 1,700 episodes at this time on this channel, dedicated to teach you guys all about how to grow your own food at home. I'll put especially one of Nick's favorite videos that I've made, you know, growing with wood chips and rock dust. When I was up in Portland many years ago, he commented on it to me many times and was like, wait, I know you from the video. So watch that one for sure. It's one of my favorite videos that ever got, and unfortunately a lot of my new viewers have never seen my old content that YouTube tends to quote unquote hide. All right, so with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.